Okay. First question. What is the meaning of the pseudonym Quorthon?
Of the name, you mean?
Yeah, the name.
Well, millions of years ago. I remember, do you remember those guys, Europe, who had this band, or this hit single, The Final Countdown and stuff?
Yeah, Europe.
Yeah, we had a lot of joke names to begin with. I mean, by the time when we decided to call the band Bathory, we were called a lot of different names at first, for the first couple of 2 or 3 months. And then when we came up with the name of Bathory, we decided that maybe we should, pick some names, to put on posters and stuff.
Yeah.
Because Swedish people would not be able to pronounce the names,
Yeah.
because we have the TH sound, the Quorthon, and phonetically it was very close to Bathory as well.
Okay.
And it was just a joke, more or less, because everybody have, stage names, like, Gene Simmons or Lemmy or Kronos or, Ozzy Osbourne and stuff like that. So we figured, why not pick some names that nobody could pronounce?
And there's no special meaning behind that?
Well, there is a meaning, of course, since we were heavily involved with, the black arts and stuff like that, and the dark side of life, not necessarily always the evil side of life. We picked the names from, there was a capture in what was called the Black Bible. I don't know if there ever was something like an official Black Bible or whatever, but Quorthon is one of Satan's 7 sons.
Oh, yeah.
And Quorthon is the one destined to find the spirit of the Nazarene on the Day of Judgment. That is, all this bullshit stuff about, Judgment Day and the spirit of Jesus and blah, blah, blah.
Do you have trouble with some die-hard Bathory fans when you release this new material on the single?
Well, if there was ever anybody writing me or calling me or whatever, some kids at age 15, 16, and maybe they've been sitting listening to Venom and Burzum for all their lives, of course they are very narrow-minded as far as music is concerned. And, but, you have to be very honest with these people and tell them that I was like that myself when I was like 15, 16. I was also into black arts and, Satan is my master and shit,
Yeah, black metal.
Yeah, well, you live and you learn and you grow up and you wise up and all that kind of shit. And if they are into the black metal Bathory, they can listen to the old albums. There's no reason for me to sit here at age 31 and, sort of like try to pretend to be the son of Satan again.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have, or some people have more problems with my image than I do.
Okay. By the way, could you name your 3 most favorite albums of the last time?
Of all time or just recently?
Or of the last year, for example.
Fuck. Well, according to me, there hasn't been a good album released since, the late 60s or early 70s, but, God, I don't know.
No idea?
I have absolutely no coverage whatsoever what's being, released or what's hip, Well, whenever I go to a record shop to buy some CDs, I always buy, stuff like Leslie West, from early 70s or Beatles or some old Kiss albums or, some old Motorhead albums, so it's...
No modern black metal or...
Well, I'm very, very late. If there's an album released this year or last year, I'm bound to pick that album up in about 5 years. So I always get sort of like a retrospective of what's been going on 5 years in the past,
Yeah. Okay. At what age you actually decided to make music, and what were your inspirations at this time? Venom or Celtic Frost, or how could that name?
I didn't know about, I started Bathory before Celtic Frost ever was founded.
Really?
Yeah, they were called Hellhammer at first.
Oh.
Bathory was formed in January 1983. I don't believe Celtic Frost was around in those days.
I didn't know that.
They were formed sometime in 85, I believe.
Yeah.
Never mind. Musically, I believe I remember playing some piano because there was piano at my place. But I wasn't taking lessons or anything like that, but I enjoyed music anyway, and I knew Beatles songs even before I could walk or talk. I'm that old,
Mm.
And, but I wasn't starting to play music actively easily until I was 9 years old, and I started playing the drums. And we're talking 1975.
Yeah.
And then in must have been 1979 or 1980, I picked the guitar up. So I guess the Beatles was the original inspiration for music in general, and then I believe in January 1975 I found Kiss.
Any early bands you were involved in before Bathory?
Oh yeah, sure. Millions.
A million?
Yeah.
And very good, or?
It was aggressive punk and punk rock. It was very Pistols influenced, and then it became more and more. As I started to write more and more material, it sounded like a combination between Sex Pistols and Motorhead. And then I realized maybe I should, take some influences or mix some Black Sabbath stuff in there as well.
Mm.
And if you mix Motorhead and Black Sabbath, you have early Bathory, So that's what we sounded like in those days.
Okay. How do you think about your role as an initiator, or as a presumable initiator of the Scandinavian black metal scene in Norway, for example?
Well, that's something created by other people.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to sit down and try to be objective about something you've been a part of for 14 years. In Sweden, we have an expression that says, everybody knows the monkey, but a monkey doesn't know anybody. So if there's a lot of people out there claiming me to be their influence and me as an initiator of a whole genre of death metal and then Viking metal and everything, it was just something that I was a part of 10 years ago. I mean, during the mid-80s when we did Viking metal, and then before that black and death metal. And now we're seeing the results. But it's just a natural evolution, and it's very dangerous to channelize a lot of influences and power to one person, because then you have the Führerprinzip, and we all have to realize that we are influenced by everything around us.
Yeah.
And Bathory was not a very, very good band at all. I mean, if the first Bathory album had been released today, or the first Slayer album, or first Venom, or first Celtic Frost album today, nobody would have cared.
Yeah, but you can't argumentate in this way. They are very old.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You have to put everything into its time slot, in the right perspective about it. And if we can agree on putting everything in the right time perspective, then of course it's very easy to sit here 14 years later and you have millions of bands and you have to find the originator.
Yeah.
So you go 10 or 14 years back, and what do you have? Well, you come up with Venom, Bathory, Celtic Frost, and Slayer.
Yeah.
And today there are only two bands of those left, Slayer and Bathory.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that we were better or faster or more satanic or anything like that. It's just coincidences. And Bathory was just one spice in the soup.
Yeah.
And nothing of this would have happened unless for the fans. And the fans are the ones to decide.
Right. Okay, before we can go on, I have to change the side of the cassette. Okay, and the next question is about your future, and how is the new Bathory album going to sound?
Not even I will be able to answer that, because when you enter the studio with a lot of material, you have all different kinds of materials. And regardless of how much people have been labeling us throughout the years as black metal or death metal or Viking metal or whatever you want, it will have a completely different sound once you're in the studio. And if we record an album now in the beginning of this summer, it will sound like Bathory 1997.
Yeah.
And sounds change and people grow up and fans grow up and everything, and fashion comes and goes and stuff like that. So it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. But you have no plans, or this is spontaneous action?
Well, it's 50% of the Bathory fan mob sort of like enjoys the more aggressive black metal or death metal side of Bathory, and we have another 50% into the slow and heavy arranged type of Nordic metal or whatever you want to call it. So those two types of music are not very nice to sort of like combine on a record, because they sort of like contradict one another. So one has to find a third solution, so to speak.
I've heard about your plans to write a book about the history of Bathory from the early beginnings up to the present time.
Yeah.
How far have your plans proceeded?
Well, I've been sitting by the computer for hundreds and hundreds of hours, probably coming up with ideas, checking my diaries, my personal notes and everything. Some of this material was cut down and used for the CD booklet in the release of Blood on Ice. But the problem was that I was too honest about the history of Bathory, so there was a lot of details in there which a lot of fans didn't like getting to know. So it was sort of like, I don't want to see you, or I don't want to hear you talk about Bathory recording vocals in the toilet and stuff like that. Probably a lot of people have had these ideas about Bathory being satanic baby eaters and angel blood drinkers, you know.
Recording in a cave and
right.
This,
recording in some kind of a underground studio with a lot of blood and shit, you know. And if you're honest about it and you tell the truth all the way, people are going to go, man, that's not what I want. So I'm thinking about maybe that's not a very good idea after all. But somehow I want to release a book anyway with all the lyrics and all the explanations to the lyrics and stuff. Because I know in some countries they don't have the lyrics with the albums.
Question I think is very important. What I have to do to get you on the tour, on the road?
That will be virtually impossible. You're going to have to kick me out of the band before that will happen, because I don't get the kicks out of doing that. I've been talking to other guys in bands on the Black Market label, and they've been telling me, man, we really envy you. Because it's the same, you know, same thing all over again. You know, the same songs, the same boring girls, beer, bad food, you know, not enough sleep. And it's great for a week or two, you know, but after 2 weeks they just want to go home. And unless you're Madonna or Michael Jackson, you're not going to make any money from that anyway. It's good promotion. I mean, a lot of those guys used to be fans themselves, and they want to experience the thing of being on stage, because they used to be in front of the stage. And well, I did all that in 1983, 84, and beginning of 85, and it's really boring. And besides, 50% of all the material that Bathory recorded on albums is impossible to reproduce on stage anyway.
And how you describe your feeling standing first time ever on a stage in front of hundreds of artists?
Well, I remember the first couple of times there wasn't, you know, a big audience. It was like 2,000 or 3,000 or anything like that, maybe 100. But it was just for friends at parties, you know, and playing in cinemas and stuff like that at parties. And it was for fun. And Bathory wasn't, you know, a big band or anything like that, so it was great fun. And I mean, if I would walk up onto a stage today, it would be more like jeans, t-shirt, and a couple of sneakers. And hello, guys, do you remember the 80s? And that would be a lot of disappointing for a lot of fans who've been waiting to see us for millions of years, because they would probably expect this big live show and everything, and then I don't like that anymore. When I was 14, I would have wanted to do that, but not today. And then a lot of people would be disappointed, and some versions are not for ficken, you know.
Great. Okay, at last I have to thank you for this wonderful interview.
Yeah?
And I have to greet you from my friends of a little band, Mad Russia, and they like to say hello to you.
Okay, great.
So, okay, thank you for your call.
Okay, take care, Oliver.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck with the magazine.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.